Hi, I'm going to try this again because the technology froze a little bit last time. So, Karen Curry Parker here with your weekly Human Design Evolution and Transit Report. We're doing something a little bit different this week. We're going to be broadcasting, or I am broadcasting live on Facebook, and I'm recording this and I will upload this later for my YouTube subscribers. So, welcome, and I'm excited to share with you an enormous amount of information this week. So, as I said before I got frozen last time, sit back, relax, chill out because I've got a lot to report. And if you can't watch all of this right now, come back and watch it later because this is important information that's going to be impacting you deeply for the next couple of weeks. So let's start first with the regular transit information. In the sun and the earth, these are energies that we deal with and change and energies that affect us on a weekly basis. This week, until next Wednesday, we are working with the energy of the Gate 27 or the 27th hexagram. The 27th hexagram is the energy for responsibilities, for obligations. It's a deep, loving, nurturing, caring energy. When it's in the sun, it's an energy that's really that we're all playing with in a very powerful way. So when this energy transits through, it creates in us a lot of questioning about where are your obligations? What are your obligations? What kinds of responsibilities do you have? Are you being responsible? Are you being irresponsible? Are there responsibilities you need to take on, or are there responsibilities that you need to let go of? Perhaps you're in a cycle with someone in your relationships, in some of your relationships, or perhaps you are taking on responsibilities for things that maybe you shouldn't be responsible for. The low side of this energy, and this is the place where we can oftentimes kind of get our butts kicked with it, the low side of this energy can be guilt. When we have this energy, and any of you who have this energy in your natal chart, you'll know that guilt and this sense of obligation can really drive you sometimes to make commitments and be responsible for things perhaps that you shouldn't be responsible for. So oftentimes when you have this energy, or when we're playing with this energy as we are this week, we're really engaged in an inner dialogue about, are there responsibilities and obligations that I'm holding on to that I need to be giving and sharing with somebody else? Is there a place where I could be empowering someone else to nurture and take care of themselves if I let them assume responsibility for their own stuff? So a big opportunity this week to really look at the quality of your relationships and to really ask yourself, if you're engaged in something that perhaps is building some kind of guilt or resentment in you, is there a pattern that needs to be broken here? Is there something you need to be giving somebody else responsibility for? And is there some kind of guilt perhaps playing in your world that you need to release? Something that perhaps you need to surrender your obligation or responsibility towards, and don't let the guilt rule you. This is going to be super important because of what's going on in a lot of the planets right now. We have a lot of retrograde energies happening right now. And a lot of these retrograde energies are really stirring up deep emotional stuff for us. And sometimes when that deep emotional energy kicks in, particularly when we're dealing with the 27 in the sun, it's easy for us to get knocked off our own path, knocked out of our own momentum, and get swept up into an obligation or a perceived responsibility that involves taking care of people who perhaps should be taking care of themselves. So especially for those of you nurturers out there, be really mindful this week that you are not over nurturing to the point where you are maybe burning yourself out, or maybe you're looking at places in your life where you need to learn to say, no, I can't do this right now. No, I know you can do this right now. Okay, that's the sun. The earth gives us a little bit of a smidgen of the Gate 28, so we're dealing with struggle. So there's always the struggle to assume which responsibilities to take, the struggle to let go of responsibilities. Ultimately, the journey we're on this week is to discover the true value of the things that we are responsible for and get back to the heart of what's really important in life. So we're really in this cycle for the next week of kind of looking through all the pieces that we're living in our lives, looking at the circumstances and situations in our lives, and really getting back to the basics of love. Okay, do not go to Lukenbach, Texas. All right, okay. So that's kind of the vibe of what's happening sort of on the superficial level. This week we're looking at obligations and responsibilities and guilt. Here's why it's important. here's what we've got going on right now. We've got Mars retrograde. And anytime a planet goes retrograde, it's not like it's moving backwards through the sky, okay? But what it is it's creating an introspective kind of inner kind of energy with it. So we've got Mars going retrograde. We've got Jupiter retrograde. We've got Saturn retrograde. We've got Pluto retrograde. On the 28th of this month, we have Mercury going retrograde. So we've got an enormous amount of planetary energy that's really putting in us this inner cycle, which is really interesting because the rest of the chart has a lot of forward momentum. We're actually in a lot of momentous energy, and simultaneously we've got this retrograde energy happening. So there's a lot of this sense of kind of push me, pull you kind of quality to what's going on energetically in the planet. So it's not going to be unusual for us when we're in the cycle to kind of feel torn in a couple of different directions and to sort of feel like we're being pushed and pulled, like we want to go forward, but there's something holding us back, and we want to go inward, but we can't because there's something pulling us forward. So be prepared to have that kind of sense around your momentum. It doesn't mean that we're not having momentum. We're actually having momentum. But these retrograde energies are all about looking inward, and they are going to be triggering in us this deep sense of compassion. Compassion for ourselves, compassion for our lives, compassion for the people in our lives. It's a really beautiful energy, and given the fact that we're playing with the 42, the gate of endings and blessings and new beginnings in Uranus, which just moved in last week, we're really looking deeply at what needs to come to an end in order for us to live out the fuller, more expanded expression of our human hearts, not just your personal heart. And this is obviously true in your personal lives, but also from our human perspective. How can we grow and expand in our compassion, in the application of our compassion? How can we create new infrastructures that better support people, that better take care of people, that are really going to give people an opportunity for growth, for evolution, for equitable solutions? We've been beautifully, I think, dealing with so many of these themes, for the last couple of months, really looking at situations just in our third dimensional world, okay? We've been looking at refugee situations, issues with equality around gender orientation. We're definitely looking at least in the West, issues around, equality for women. This theme of how do we better take care of each other? How do we live an equitable, fair, abundant life for everyone? It's deep in our psyches, and this retrograde energy is really stirring this up, both collectively and on an individual level. The power of this is that it's giving us an opportunity to really look at the collective structures around us and really ask ourselves what needs to shift and change. What's going on in our economy that needs to change to make it more fair? What's going on in the way we govern ourselves? What needs to happen? What needs to come down? What needs to be rebuilt? These are the serious dialogues we're having about the world right now, and we're having not just about the world, but also our own lives. So it's a powerful time. The thing that's important to pay attention to, particularly when we have the 27 in the sun, guilt is not a really great sustainable driver. You can feel guilty in the short run, and you can create a couple of things that are reactive, but if you're creating something out of guilt, it doesn't have sustainable power. It won't last because it's a reactive energy. So when we're dealing with the 27 in the sun and all of this compassion, emotional stuff coming up, we really have to look at what values need to shift and to really get conscious about what values are we shifting rather than reacting from a place of guilt. Okay? So yes, it's great, and I'm not saying don't do this. Absolutely. If you see somebody who is in need, reach out and help them. Always. That's the rule on the planet, I think. If you see somebody in need and you're able to give, reach out and help them. And we also have to look at what's getting people to the places where they need help in the first place, and what kinds of foundational things do we need to be doing and shifting? What values do we need to be changing in order for us to structure in our personal lives a different set of values, a different way of being, so that our life from the bottom up, the way in which we live our life, is foundationally solid, meaning you've dealt with your own personal issues of lovability, of empowerment, of courage, of you know how to make good choices for yourself. You're emotionally wise. You trust yourself. You know how to use your energy so that you're sustainable. You're authentic in how you express yourself, and you get the value of who you are. When you are coming from that place in your own life, and that becomes the foundation of all the values that you live, then that's what you're building on over this next cycle. And everything that kind of flows from that foundation becomes sustainable because it's not reactive. Same is true for any other collective changes we make. When we can do our own inner work and bring ourselves to that strong point of really getting the value and the power of who we are and living that out personally, we can then take that energy, the sustainable quality of that energy, into rebuilding the collective structures. But it's not going to happen, and it's not going to work as well as it could work if we don't do that inner work first. And if we're really being mindful of not reacting rather than being deliberate and conscious. So really important when this retrograde energy is playing, when your emotions get stirred up and all of this emotional stuff keeps moving around in your life and in your heart, and don't let it knock you off your path. In fact, most importantly, feel it, experience it, get clarity from it, because that's part of what's going on with it, and then zero in your focus on whatever it is that you're wanting to create, and keep your eyes here. And don't let all that emotional stuff and all that pain, don't let the guilt and the obligation and all that other stuff distract you from where you're going and what you want to be doing and what you want to be building. When you're aligned with what's truth for you, when you're aligned with who you are, when you're aligned with the value and the preciousness of who you are, and you get why you're here. That was a phone call that came in. So when you get that alignment piece and you really get who you are, then you truly can build something that's sustainable, that can have a deep and long-lasting impact, not only on your own personal life and on the lives of the people you love, but also ultimately it'll have a deep and resounding impact collectively as we continue to move towards an evolving world where we are all of us being moved to a place where we're valued, where we're powerful, where we're loved, where we're abundant, where we're here to make our contribution in a free way, where we can be educated and safe. That's where we're headed. So don't let all of the emotional stuff knock you off your course. That's it for this week. Don't feel guilty. Do the right thing. Take care of yourselves. Learn to say no if you need to. By all means, say yes to the things you want to say yes to. Have a great week, and I will be broadcasting next week live from Tucson, Arizona, one of my favorite places in the world. Bye.